All right, so this Knife Thoughts video is going to be a quick look at this very interesting knife, and this is a Tacray Folding Kitchen Knife. And I don't really know what the model name is, so I'll show you the box here. Folding Kitchen, out something, and outdoor cooking. So, there's not much of a actual model name, but it's a knife that I saw online, I think on Reddit, and just thought was so interesting that I wanted to check it out. And so I wanted to show it to you here. Now, this knife has a very big, very tall VG10 blade. And now, I haven't tested this knife extensively to know that it is definitely VG10. No one's done, a metallurgy test on it. But at this point in the game here, VG10 is a knife steel that you see on not really high-end knives, on budget knives made in China. And so I do believe that it is VG10. And VG10 is a knife steel that for a long time was considered really high-end for kitchen knives. So, a lot of high-end kitchen knives like Shun and things like that had VG10 as their kind of advertised, this is a great steel for kitchen knives. And it is good because it's pretty stainless. It takes a pretty fine edge, and you can grind it relatively thin. So I was really impressed with that, being that this is not an expensive knife. I'm not sure how much these are right now. I got this and it seemed to be on sale, but I'll put it in the description how much it is and where you can get it. I got this from Amazon, so I'll put an affiliate link to get it on Amazon there in the description. But the really interesting thing about this knife, the thing that made me want to get it as a folding kitchen knife, is the fact that this edge sits so far below the handle. Now, I've had some other folding kitchen knives. There's a Rough Rider folding kitchen knife, and I know that A.G. Russell makes one or has one produced. And I like the idea because, if you're going camping or traveling or something, you don't necessarily want to bring a full-sized, kitchen knife with you, but your normal pocket knife that you carry every day isn't necessarily really a great knife for food prep. Particularly for me, my wife and I, when we travel, like to go to stay at Airbnbs so that we can cook for ourselves. And, a lot of times the knives there aren't super great, so it's nice to have a folding chef knife sometimes. But a lot of them, they try to have the edge below the handle, which is, what it's like on a real, non-folding kitchen knife. But the ones I've had haven't done a great job of it. This one does an amazingly good job of it. So if you see, I have the edge sitting on the ground here, and my fingers are nowhere near touching the ground. And compare that to if I was, probably one of the better normal folding knives for food prep, because it's so long and thin and also has VG10, is a Spyderco Police 4 lightweight. I can't even really get the edge all the way down to, the ground there, or the cutting board or whatever, without taking my fingers completely out of the way or only using part of the blade. Whereas on the Tacray here, you can get this all the way, and you can do rolling cuts, you can do chopping cuts. So really, they did a great job of designing this knife so that it really does work like a kitchen knife. The other thing is that it's really, really nicely ground. I was surprised. That's another downside to these folding kitchen knives, is that often they're just ground like a normal folding pocket knife. So they're ground, relatively thick. This is not. So hopefully you can see that there. This is ground really, really thin. So you have a nice thin edge behind, or nice thin thickness behind the edge on this knife, so that this really does, it cuts well. It's gonna really slice through things like an actual kitchen knife. So I'm really impressed with the grind on this. I mean, it's much better than I expected. Now, getting into the weird things. So first of all, it's kind of unusual for a folding kitchen knife to be one-hand openable, and you can see that this does have this thumb cut out of a kind of oblong shape there. So it is one-hand openable, and I actually kind of wanted to carry this knife, just have a massive, kind of chopper style blade in your pocket. That'd be kind of cool, right? I actually intended to carry this as well as use it as a folding kitchen knife. but it doesn't have a pocket clip. I should have, looked at the pictures closer, I guess, or something, but I was a little surprised to see that it didn't have a pocket knife. Or not pocket knife, pocket clip. So it does not have a pocket clip. Then the other thing here is that it has this button, and it seems like it would be a button lock, but it's actually not a button lock. So this is actually pretty much a compression lock, but with a button. So it's really interesting. So, a button lock, a plunge lock, the button itself has a, kind of cone-shaped thing that goes into the tang. And you can see that this button is nowhere near the tang here. So then when you look in closer, hopefully, you can see that there is a cutout part of the liner in there. And I don't know how well you can see that, but there is a cutout part of the liner. And when this blade closes, so when it closes here, you can see that that pops up a little bit. So right there, you can see that that liner is popped up. And what that's doing is this tang right here is going past that, and there's you can see the detent in there, hopefully, the detent ball right here. And when it opens fully, that liner is popping out between this stop pin right here and this liner. So it's really interesting. And it really is like a compression lock, because a compression lock you would pinch like this. So, it's interesting to see a lock like a compression lock. And again, I don't know if it's different enough with this button and all that it's not a compression lock. But interesting to see that it actually, works very similar to a compression lock, and it's actually relatively smooth. So it's not necessarily drop closed. I don't think that this has ball bearing washers. I think it just has normal washers, but you can push that button and close it, by swinging it closed pretty easily. So it's a really interesting knife. It's different than I even expected. It is much better made than I expected. I did wish that it has a pocket clip. You could probably tap one in, but is it worth it? It's really a folding kitchen knife. It's not really made to be carried. Definitely a large knife too. Speaking of which, I'm going to show you a couple comparisons. So here is the Tacray. Then I'll show you this one again here. This is the Spyderco Police 4 lightweight. You can see that the Police 4 is both shorter and much less tall. So this Tacray is a big knife. Here is a ZT-0561, much shorter, a little thicker, but the blade is nowhere near as tall. And then a real behemoth to compare it to, the Cold Steel Voyager XL. This is one that I have actually also used a little bit for food prep while camping. And you can see that the Voyager XL is quite a bit longer. So, the Tacray is not a small knife. It is big enough to be used for real cooking, in my opinion. So, it's one of those things where if you are interested in a, folding kitchen knife, maybe you throw it in your backpack, take it with you to work if you do any kind of, light cooking at work, or I know people that work kind of in the field, like in the oil and gas industry, where they're out for a week or so at a time. Something like that, where you don't want to take a full-size kitchen knife, but you want to have a kitchen knife that's pretty usable. I think this is a good option, So I was pleasantly surprised, enough so that I actually got another Tacray knife that I really like the design of. I'll have a video on that also. But interesting knife from Tacray. There are a couple different handle color options. I went with orange, but there is, I think, pink and maybe black. So a couple different options there, but a very weird, a very interesting, a very unique knife, and a knife that honestly is made better than I was expecting. So if you've enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Also, check out my social media. I am on Instagram and Facebook at Knife Thoughts, and my website, knifethoughts.com, where I post articles on knives like this and knife-related topics. And last but not least, as always, don't forget to go out and do good.